Just us then.
Now there's a thing. Just us then. So, welcome to Schools for Earthly Listening. The time in London is now 6 o'clock. The time is now. We, the EPRG, are a research collective, and this is a protective, anti-discrimination space of mutual respect that should cause no harm and aim for good. We are recording this session for further experimental research. We respect research protocols.
Schools for Earthly Listening. Following this slide, you'll encounter 12 listening schools. They are textual invitations to hear political and ecological networks while situating your own presence and orientation. They are serious, playful, and critical prompts that draw on the work of Pauline Oliveros, deep listening, as well as broader art histories from Fluxus and conceptual praxis. I, like many practitioners, researchers, and lecturers based in the Screen School, make and do scores together with students. They help attune awareness toward that which may be overlooked or underheard, and open a participatory space for noticing the audible and inaudible commons of our everyday. Each slide will exist for approximately 5 minutes before the next score slide appears. You are invited to document your listening however you may wish, in writing, photography, sounds, or nothing at all. Mark Peter Wright, CRISP, UAL, EPRG, 24 Hours on Earth.
What are the first sounds you heard this morning?
Find a sound that needs care. Lay with your ear to the ground. Listen. Find a quiet place. Hold your pulse. Find a loud place. Hold your pulse. Listen to the rhythms of your home. Write a review as if it were a concert. Lay on your back with your feet in the air. Begin to walk. Listen. Find a sound that makes you think of somewhere else. Find a threshold. Listen to both sides. Listen to the soundscape around you. Which sounds might not exist in the future? Follow a slow sound. What is your most personal sound? map your surroundings with your fingers and knuckles.
Thank you to Mark Wright, to Jenny Maxwell, and to all the students whose voices you have not heard yet. And good morning, Stacey.
Good morning. Like literally, I got the last 3 slides. Just woke up morning.
Fantastic. There's a good start to the day, right? Some
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah. I have a rabbit.
Oh, you have a rabbit.
I have a rabbit which you can't see. You can see a rabbit now.
Oh,
Decided to get. Well, it's very early in the morning for little Maxie, so he's kind of surprised I'm around, and he's rather appreciating the fact that you're up. And away he goes. He's got
extra love.
That was very meditative, Jonathan. I liked it.
yeah, it was good, wasn't it? Really, really rather lovely.
Yeah.
Stacey, I was saying to Jonathan that was supposed to be a film with layers of audio, student voices, etc. But actually, when it came to it, it was us in the room, and rather lovely. Being kind of present for that. Right.
Is the next session is audience led? Is it?
It is. It's all the audience becoming hosts.
All right.
Have you attended all of them?
All of them? No, I got some sleep.
Okay, good. I crashed after mine last night. I did wake up at 3 a.m. and think, oh, I should check in. And then I thought, no, you're going to be a wreck tomorrow and you got stuff to do still.
But I guess we should say, welcome to Audience Become Hosts. The time in London is 7 o'clock. The time is now. We are a research collective, and this is a protective, anti-discrimination space of mutual respect that should cause no harm and aims for good. We are recording this session for further experimental research. We respect research protocols. And welcome to everybody who has come for this 7 o'clock session. I'm not quite sure. Do we want to do an hour of asking ourselves questions of talking about what's gone on, or should we go back to bed?
I think it's too late to go back to bed. I've been up since 4, and no one came to my session, Stacey. I was very not surprised exactly, but I suddenly realised that I've got an hour out. I should have done the 6 o'clock session, which is actually a dawn chorus. There was no dawn or anything at 5 o'clock this morning.
There wasn't. That's BST for you.
Sorry?
That's BST for you.
I know. No, I didn't. In fact, if you have a look at the recording, I do actually thank British Summertime for that. And if you have a look, I don't know if you check, but when you record, it creates a kind of transcription. And you remember the conversation we had at 12 o'clock with Naomi, who said, beware of the transcription. Sometimes it creates these weird phrases. Well, have a look at the transcription. It's absolute gobbledygook.
Oh, fabulous.
And in fact, I looked at the transcription from the meeting at 12 o'clock where Stacey said, sorry, Stacey, my brain, Naomi says, oh, be wary. And actually the transcription, if they're saying be wary of the transcription, creates itself a whole load of nonsensical stuff. So yeah.
Glorious.
Good morning, Grena.
Hi, good morning. You caught me walking to the car. I'm going to be listening while I drive.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and hope I don't get caught by the guards. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Hello from whatever time zone we're talking to.
I think we're all in BST. I think we're all at 7 o'clock at the moment.
Jonathan, you haven't been up for 24 hours, have you?
No. I'm meant to get up for 5, I think I made it for about 20 past, half past. No, I crashed soon after Stacey's 11 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. 10 p.m. last night.
10 p.m. Yeah.
Crashed about sort of 11:15. But yeah, but that gobbledygook transcription. I mean, that could be a fascinating thing in and of itself. You know, the noises that we make when we're trying to do pedagogy. Yeah, the strange artifacts that come out of that.
Well, it's interesting because if you have a look at Panopto, this is completely irrelevant, but we might as well fill the hour. If you have a look at Panopto and its generation of transcripts, it actually senses what you're saying as well. So if you think you're swearing, it'll put a whole series of asterisks
wow.
in the text. So it's got a moral compass of its own.
What if the swearing is crucial to what I need to say? Oh, I think he's dropped off. Oh, there we go.
People drop in and drop out. There's the joy of these spaces.
Someone removed me from the session, it said.
Oh.
Someone accidentally threw me out of the room.
God, I hope it wasn't me when I moved my phone from one location to the next so I could find my clothes to get on this one.
Maybe this is Teams moral compass.
Well, I was dissing the system and I was speaking against the machine, and it decided actually.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So this hour is about asking ourselves questions about. Oh God, I'll just remind myself. It's a conversation about. What is it? A conversation about?
Contemplating meditation on learning to learn about racial, social, and environmental injustice. Whoever in the room can discuss this idea, and if you wish, to use the world map Padlet to tell you where you're coming from. Don't think anybody's been doing that at all, because I think we've sort of gotten to talk about it.
Well, three of us are in London. Oh no, Stacey, where are you at the moment?
I'm in Royston, Hertfordshire, so I already put on the map from Trinidad to Royston.
Yes. Yeah. And Crella, where are you travelling from at the moment? You're in the car.
She might not be able to unmute.
You know, no, yes, probably not.
I should know where Crona's from, but I can't quite remember. It's the north. Northwest of Ireland, and somewhere that's sort of on the border between whatever the terms are, northern and southern Ireland.
I'm in the car. You don't hear me?
Bits of it, Crona.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
I am listening and I am trying to talk, but obviously I'm cutting in and out. Apologies.
Where are you, Crona?
I was like, oh, Jonathan's doing a good job there. I am at the moment. I'm in South Donegal, and I'm travelling to North Donegal, so on the northwest, as you said, of Ireland. So.
Fantastic. How long's the journey?
40 minutes.
Okay. That sounds like a commute.
Yeah. I go through a mountain range basically, and then it's called the Gap, very originally, and then I end up where I work.
Is it?
Actually, I apologize. I am cutting in and out of network, so
we won't ask too much of you, Crona.
Participation is disjointed.
Of course. Is it a beautiful drive though?
You hear that, Jonathan?
Go ahead, Crona.
We heard that.
Sorry.
Heard what you said about it being
Okay,
catchy.
lovely. Thank you, Stacey. I'm gonna mute because it's just too frustrating for you. But I am here listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not sure what you're going to be listening to.
Stacey, how many people did you manage to get to your session at 10? Did you have a full house? You said enviously.
No, we had about 4 extra people at one point,
Okay.
maybe 5 extra people in addition to our 4-person panel. And it kind of went dropped and raised and dropped and raised. My in-laws turned up.
All right.
But to be honest, I was amazed because that's so way past their bedtime.
There's a success.
You mean your in-laws turned up in your house or in?
No, in the session.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
did a little WhatsApp blitz just to remind people, hey, this is happening tonight and tomorrow. Oh, I meant to ask Jonathan, the recordings that we make, will they be made publicly available or are they just for us in the EPRG?
What do we want?
I don't know, but I've had a lot of people ask whether recordings will be available, especially like for the late night ones that they couldn't attend. Or in our case, it was late night for us, but it was 5 p.m. in Trinidad, so people were on the road coming home from work.
Of course.
So they wouldn't have made it back in time to hear the session, even if they wanted to.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, my feeling is that we should think about what we want to do with them. I mean, I think that this is material that we've generated, so I think it kind of should be disseminatable. I think that's sort of got to be part of the point of it, hasn't it?
I mean, we could just keep the playlist, but change the links to each of the recordings.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I think this is. I mean, I think that these are all things that we need to think about. What are the next steps? I don't think there's a kind of concrete plan. I think we've probably all got sort of ideas which are probably in a ballpark of what we would kind of like to happen with this stuff. But yeah, I don't think we've kind of arrived at anything conclusive about, right, this is what we're going to do. So I guess that's the next meeting to go, right, what's happened? What we got?
All right. Sounds good.
Have all the sessions actually been, sorry, Stacey, have all these sessions actually been recorded? Because I had a look on the Teams thing and I can see a recording from 11 o'clock last night, but nothing covering the hours between then and now. I saw someone did a really interesting session and my brain's gone dead completely on making art and creativity, and she was online more or less on her own for an hour and a half, but she managed to chat her way through.
Oh, it was Jenny, wasn't it?
Jenny, sorry, yes, of course, yeah. But apart from that, I can't see that many other recordings.
So they'll be in files, right?
Yeah, I can't seem to see where the files are, but maybe they're hidden.
They should be on the so you should have a bar down the right of the panel.
I can see some.
Some of them will be Zoom as well, right?
Yeah.
Zoom, yeah, absolutely.
Zoom, and I have the recording, but I was gonna send an email this morning with the link for Jonathan and Mark to stick it wherever we wanted the recordings to be stored or to go.
God, Stacey, I don't think we got that far.
Wouldn't it be an idea for us to sort of look through the recordings and curate them first before putting them out into the public domain? I know that that's anti-democratic, but
that would sort of be my feeling, that there might be kind of some editing things that need to happen, just kind of topping and tailing them. Really, I mean, I wouldn't want to be sort of removing content, but I'd certainly kind of want it to start with something whereby you kind of knew this was the start of the recording, because I think sometimes I mean, looking in the recordings down in the files, there are 3 so far from Teams. As you know, Stacey said, there'll be others that are in Zoom or whatever. And I think somebody did a collaborate one as well, plus the recordings and stuff. I know that the likelihood is that some of those recordings are going to go over an hour. So we might need to sort of cleave them, so that you kind of start with, it's 7 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock, kind of whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, my feeling is that, you know, that if we are in possession of a recording that we want to send to people that are interested, I don't think that I don't see any ethical reason why we shouldn't do that.
No, I mean, I suppose because the premise of recording this stuff is so that we have an archive of what we found out, because for research purposes. But then there's a second question, as Stacey kind of points out, what happens if people want I think rather than putting it somewhere, because I quite like the idea of taking the playlist and replacing all the URL links with links to recordings. At the same time, perhaps the recording should be available to people on request.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, excuse me, some of the
reason, sorry, what would be the reason for making it on request?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just being awkward, I suppose.
I don't think you are, Jonathan. I hope you're probably echoing what I've just said, which is that, you know, if somebody wants it, they should have it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking, why should there be an extra step of a request? If I want to see a video, I search it, I go on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, and I look for it, and I find it, and I watch it. I know this is completely lazy, but in our current society, you've got to do that one extra step. Very often, they don't do it.
Hang on, Stacey. The stuff that's on Vimeo or YouTube is stuff that has been deliberately put in the public domain. The stuff that we've just created is not stuff that we have put in the public domain. We have invited people to an event, and people have come or not. But I think I think that we should have a conversation about what we want to do with it. I think Jonathan's point about stuff being available on request was, you know, if you want to send your recordings to people because they want to see them, then I think that's perfectly reasonable. But I'm a little bit uncomfortable about some of the stuff that we've done just being put on YouTube. I wouldn't be massively okay with that.
Well, I was going to say, because when we started, we talked about, and I've got the impression that so far, let's make it public. That's why I was questioning why we're doing the requesting. I mean, there's other reasons for requests as well, like if you want to gather email addresses to build up a newsletter or any of that kind of stuff, a mailing list. But that's what I was saying, is there a reason for the request? And also, I wasn't talking about like the raw videos we have now. I mean, yes, I could send a link to the Zoom recording to people that ask, but I was thinking more of the edited stuff that we would have put links to on the 24-hour playlist. But I mean, it's open. I thought I was continuing what we were talking about earlier, but I must have missed a bit in between.
Right. I don't know. I just think that we need to have that conversation. Some of the things on the playlist are on a playlist for an amount of time. So some of the films, or one of the films certainly, is up there and accessible for this 24 hours, but the creator of that film doesn't want it in the public domain. You know, it's part of this event, but not something that they would have, that they are comfortable being able to be accessed by anybody at any time. And I think that we will have perhaps differing senses of, I don't know, what we want to be out in the world. I mean, you know, in some of these sessions, there has been some critique of the institution, for example, and you know, we talk about safe and brave spaces if such a critique is then accessible to people who then might be interviewing us for jobs, that might not be a great thing. So I think rather than just doing a blanket thing of, right, let's bam it up and put it out there, we've got to be considerate of one another's preferences, I suppose, and different people might feel different ways about it. I'm certainly not comfortable with saying anything really in either direction. Yes, we should. No, we shouldn't. I mean, that's not my place to say. I think democratically we've got to think about what we would like and take some degree of ownership, I suppose, of the individual things. Yeah, that the material is there for us to think about and use intelligently and sensitively. But I think we've got to be sensitive to one another's feelings about that.
My understanding was that and Stacey, you're right, actually. I mean, why are we being so protective about this material? But my understanding was we would gather together this information, which would be a portfolio of stuff that we've learned from the 24 hours, which could then perhaps go into other forms of output. But my concern would be, and I'm just replaying some of the weird things that I said at the 12 o'clock meeting and whether or not I'd want them to be relayed to senior management. I think putting it out as raw data without a context could be open to misconstrue what we're trying to do. And this was partly why in the pre-meetings we had, and I discussed with Mark, was around managing the audience's expectation, because on the face value, what we've done in this 24 hours could be either seen as a stroke of genius, or it could be seen as completely mad and not legitimate pedagogic research. So I think the question of contextualization is very important. But I do agree, Stacey, that particularly those who are interested in specific sessions, as long as it's quite clear what the context is, they should have access to the material. I had thought, as you were talking, Stacey, what an interesting idea. Why not create a Vimeo playlist? What a great idea to provide that. And perhaps we can put together some edited highlights of the material that we've created, which I know is selective, and that could go out into the public domain. But it's obviously, as Jonathan said, it's a conversation for the whole group to have. Although the problem with having a conversation, sorry, Stacey, yeah, carry on.
I was just saying, I think those are all really strong points. I totally agree with what you said, Jonathan, and who's Jonathan? I just realized I'm in a meeting with two Jonathans. I hadn't considered those angles, so good thinking, Batman. But I guess I think I'm picturing it in my head, and I think it's quite nice to imagine that playlist on the EPRG website, because I'm not even necessarily thinking that it'll be Vimeo or YouTube accessible, but just from the EPRG website. And it's quite nice imagining that 24-hour stretch. Some of the things maybe you won't be able to see because we've decided on an hour-by-hour basis what will be, available as a recording and what won't. But some of them you will, and you can jump into those. And it'll give you a flavor of what happened. This is an event that went. Some things were only live, and some things you can see again. But it adds a little bit of mystery to it as well, in the fact that if you're scrolling through, oh, this looks like an interesting session, and it might say session available upon request, please email whatever, and then another one, here's the link, and another one, this is no longer available, and it's just depends on what the session is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I also think, though, that I mean, the things that I have, been involved in, been a part of, been to, sort of been present in, every single one of those sessions has been so interesting. And I think one of the things that I have taken from this experience is let's do it again. You know, and actually not completely start from scratch again, but let's do this again, because actually the you know, most of us, I think, have been talking to ourselves to some extent. You know, the attendance hasn't been what it might have been, and that's absolutely fine, because you know, we weren't necessarily doing it in order to you know, have lots of people around, although it would have been nice. But there have been, but so many of the sessions could have got so much potential, you know, and we don't have to necessarily rewrite them in order to have another iteration of them. You know, they could absolutely just be kind of things that we try again. So I suppose whilst it would be fascinating to kind of go through all the hours and see what happened, I also in a way would like to rerun them, maybe at, you know, discrete times, maybe not over 24 hours, maybe in, you know, different, because you know, so many of the things what happened when people were traveling or kind of couldn't be there. And then we had those, you know, right at the beginning, I think, or at some point over you know, the EPRG history, we had that meeting that was that we did, you know, the same meeting 3 times on different days at different times of the day, as a way of being you know, more accessible and giving more opportunity, more people the opportunity to kind of be part of something. So I don't know. I suppose what I'm saying is that you know, that what has gone on over this 24 hours has been hugely important, I think, in all sorts of ways that I haven't yet begun to process. But that it kind of shouldn't. This shouldn't be it. That it would be really lovely if we could sort of, and I think all sorts of artifacts will emerge from this. And I love the gobbledygook transcription. I mean, in some ways, you know, it's problematic, but the, you know, having all that record of all that stuff that doesn't quite make sense, that you can then, you know, do fun arty stuff with, that excites me. I like stuff, I like material to kind of play with. But I also think that we should absolutely think about these sessions which we have, you know, put together, magicked up, made happen, as being, you know, live and vital things that we can rerun as you know, future iterations. So and I suppose what I'm saying there is that you know, just because you've missed something and you weren't able to be part of it, and you know, the recording of it is available or not available or selectively available, doesn't mean that you can't be part of it again, because it might happen again. However, the other thing I was going to say when you were talking about it, actually, you know, sometimes you see something and you weren't able to be there, and you think, oh gosh, I wonder what that was like. That sounds really interesting. I wonder what happened. And part of my slight, I don't know, I'm ambivalent about most things actually, but the kind of the accessibility of YouTube means that everything is just sort of there, and you can just sort of watch it whenever you sort of want, and that's all lovely. But to some extent, it kind of removes it all gets a bit passive if you can just sort of see it. And sometimes I think it's quite good to think about what might have been, and imagine, I don't know, I'm rambling there, but I think there's conversation to be had. I'm very good at stopping a conversation by just rambling, incidentally.
So
I'm getting kids ready, so in between, and put your clothes on. So yeah, that would be my silences in between.
Sorry, yeah, I've moved on to breakfast as well, Jonathan. I'm hungry, and my son's come down to make some food. So, yeah, this is what hence the interruptions. But I agree with you, in some respects, to post the stuff up online rather de-radicalizes the experimentalism of what we're trying to do. So yeah, and in some respects, I think the importance of the events has been a critical engagement with the material. And watching a recording of that doesn't mean you can't critically engage, but you're not actually part of the event. So what is the value of these recordings? I think the value of the recordings is very important for us to recollect and reflect on what we've done as a way of moving forward. But to what extent is it as valuable to people outside is another matter. So this recording, for example, of the last 29 minutes, I'm not quite sure what anyone would do with that.
No, I don't know. And I suppose it's this, isn't it? You know, what is the value to people of these things? And are we just doing it for ourselves? And yeah, I suppose, yeah, it's that whole kind of conversation that this thing brings up, and these reflections that I think can only come about when you've sort of done something, which is why it's so vital that we do these things, even when they don't work, even when they do sort of fall flat and they're not what we wanted or expected them to be. Because I don't know about you lot, but I spend a lot of time sort of planning things and wondering and wishing, and actually, or have done in my life certainly, and not doing. And I think I've made sort of quite a conscious decision to just now get on with it and try it and see what happens, because you get different stuff out of that experience. And I did have a point when I started that. Something about it's something about the you know, if I'm honest, in the days leading up to yesterday, I was in a state of complete dread and anxiety, because it seemed like there was so much to do, and it wasn't, you know, there wasn't anything to do because it was all sorted, but I just had this sense that things.
I missed something.
Sorry, Stacey.
Was it a sense of, have I missed something? Did
Oh,
I go to, did I shuffle the keys? Did I? I have a friend who has a word for that.
Go on.
Benchy.
Again?
Benchy.
Benchy?
Yeah. She goes, oh, that feels a bit clenchy, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It just that's oh. And then it started, and you know, in the kind of half hour going up to it, I was going, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's ridiculous. And it starts, and it's like, hey, we're doing something, and none of it matters anymore. You know, none of that sort of that anxiety and that what if. It's like, well, what? It's happening, and I'm so much happier when it's happening. I think I probably.
That makes you feel any better. I mean, it's not like I don't think about these topics generally, but the reason I woke up at 3 a.m. from a wonderfully deep sleep, which I really needed, was that my brain was going. I think I attended maybe about 3 sessions yesterday because I had various appointments I couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
And just in those 3 sessions, I'd apparently triggered enough thinking that at 3 o'clock, my brain went, hey, we've got an idea. And I couldn't go back to sleep until I got up and wrote it down. And then my brain would let me go back to sleep. But it was literally thinking, oh, well, what other sessions could you do like this? How else could you would you want to do that? And it was just like, do you really have to plan a session right now? But I'm not listen, we could do this tomorrow. And no, and I had to get up and write things down.
Yeah.
I may never run that session that denied me an hour of sleep, but but yeah. So I think it definitely, subconsciously anyway, got my brain going and got me thinking. So it has worked, and if anybody's attended even 2 or 3 of these sessions yesterday, I think even in the still moments, their brain will kick in and go, woo.
Too right, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? We need to be doing stuff. All of us need to be doing stuff. It's stimulating, and it keeps us feeling well. You know, conversation we had the other day, Stacey, about being in this environment. You kind of you believe that you can do something. You believe there is a point to it if you're kind of engaged in it, rather than the endless planning. I get so tired of planning, planning for things that you can't quite see.
I hear that.
But yeah, I mean, when we've kind of done, and we've sort of got some sleep, and looked through all this thing, I'm absolutely 100% certain that there is so much more that or various things that we can now do as offshoots of all of this. Whether it's kind of further iterations or material that we take from this and turn into other things. The paper, the thing that is the record, the artifacts, art and design and choreography and stuff.
I want us to do more than a paper. I don't want the paper to be the only, the standard academic outcome, if you know what I mean.
Not interesting. It's just not interesting. I mean, I think you can have papers, but what is
a paper, but a paper and.
Oh hell yeah! I
think
it's inverted commas paper.
Well, yeah, and I want more people to be able to access it. So I want papers aren't exactly always accessible to everyone. That they often feel like the preserve of the academic. And before I started teaching and engaging in scholarly activity, not that I don't think I was doing it before, I was just officially. If you'd said to me, read this paper, I'd been like, that's. I would immediately think that's just not for me.
Oh.
That's not, I know part of that is social programming. Part of that is, culture, heritage, what you've grown up with, and which leads back to social programming and is tied into all the issues we're talking about today. And all the various imposter syndromes. But yeah, a paper would not have been my go-to. And I feel like the topics we're discussing should be the importance, the experiments we're doing are, thought-provoking, and they should be accessible to more than, I don't want to say just academics, but yeah, more than only academics.
I'm interested in things being variously accessible and things existing on multiple platforms in multiple forms, and the similar information can appear very differently accessible, and I think that one of our strengths as a group is the fact that we are a group of disparate academics, people who academics as in people who work within an educational institution or education of higher institution, I suppose, if that's semantics, but actually the point is that we have interests and skill sets and perspectives and need to do things and to engage all sorts of groups of people in the stuff that we believe is important. And I think it's one of our kind of fundamental perspectives that we are going to always try to do differently, i.e. do more, do other, do not things just for the sake of being alternative, but things for the sake of, you know, recognizing the breadth of the environment that we're operating in, or could operate in, or want to operate in, and taking stuff out of the university into, you know, other spheres of existence and learning, because learning goes on across all parts of our environment. I hope, and I think that's one of the things that I'm absolutely taking from this session. The you know, well, not that I ever thought that learning was a preserve of the institution. Indeed, Jonathan, we'll see you soon. And in fact, I'm going to do something quite similar myself, Stacey. Because I actually need to deal with the dog and so on and so forth. But the yeah, you know, when I talk about paper, it's absolutely got inverted commas around it, and it means research output. You know, it means thing that has come from doing something that is interesting in order to disseminate. I mean, again, the semantics, but these are these are useful, I suppose, terms to express a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like, you know, the pedagogy thing. It expresses all sorts of other things, and it's imperfect, like disseminate, like academic, like paper. You know, they're all imperfect, but I'm very afraid of perfect words. I'm very afraid of those words that seem to do everything, because in my experience they don't. In my experience, they also can be quite excluding of different perspectives and opinions, and you know, and shutting down of conversation, actually. But yes, hopefully papers and you know, things that emerge from this that have potential to go in a bunch of different directions, engage a bunch of different people, and you know, bring more people into us, because we are, I hope that we are, as a group, well, I think as a group we are welcoming. You know, we want people to be part of the fun, and it should be fun, right?
Definitely. I think I just knocked myself out enough of gas on by mistake.
Oh no! You're
I
right.
was finished cooking the bacon, and I was thinking, why does it smell like this?
I love the fact that you're cooking bacon and conducting a conversation at the same time. That's way more than I can do.
Children have to go to school whether I want to or not.
Gosh. Listen, I'm gonna duck out myself because I'm going to deal with the dog and get myself ready and get on with it. So lovely to see you, and I will see you again shortly, I'm sure.
No problem.
Take care.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.